your friendly neighborhood man, woman on a Friday, not a Tuesday or a Thursday, a Friday. And what am I doing? I am reacting and commenting on an op-ed piece. Op-ed piece meaning opinion, editorial piece. So I'm going to opine on their opinions and be opinionated. And it is about the Census Bureau, and for those of you that have been following the news, they wanted to pass a law that would include a citizenship question on the census. Well, this guy has his opinions, and I have my opinions too. And for those of you new to the channel, I worked for 3 years with the good old United States Census Bureau. And there's a lot of insight that I know about the Census Bureau that a lot of people don't. So, with that in mind, and with my opinions in check, let's get on with responding to this thing. You guys are in for a little bit of a treat because since, number one, I am out of free articles on the New York Times, and two, this will let me like highlight things and put it in bold so everybody can see what I'm responding to. We are doing this out of my Evernote through the browser. So we're going to do this. Looks like the Trump administration lied about the census. What could he mean? The administration needed citizenship data to protect voting rights. All right, we're going to put that in a red. New documents tell another story. Okay, in other words, to protect voting rights. They were going to say, are you a citizen of the United States? Which would protect voting rights because we don't want illegal aliens / non-citizens / undocumented immigrants voting. However way you want to call them. I call them illegal aliens. Is it politically correct in this day and age? No, but that is the technical term. They are illegal because they're not here legally, and they're aliens because they're foreign to our country. All right, so let's scroll past the pictures. A trove of documents brought to the attention of the Supreme Court Thursday makes it hard to see the Trump administration's efforts to include a citizenship question on the 2020 census as anything but a partisan power grab. We're going to get to that one in a minute because I also have this one over here. As you can see, I'm mousing it over and it's green. We'll get to that one. The court will decide at the end of June whether Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary, was justified under federal law in adding the citizenship question. In my opinion, yes, he is. So, yeah, a move that would nearly certainly lead to serious undercounts of Hispanics, and immigrant-rich communities. Now, I have beef about this because in my time in the Census Bureau, whether you worked in the office or whether you worked in the field, you had to sign a non-disclosure agreement that lasted for 99 years. So, yes, I am still under that NDA, so I can't talk about any of the particulars of any of the cases that I did when I was in the field. However, I can tell you that NDA also included penalties for ratting out information to other departments in the United States, like the IRS, ICE, any other immigration departments there may be out there, any law enforcement and stuff. So when we went into a house to do an interview, we could see illegal activity, but there's nothing that we could do during the course of the interview or after. We had to act like it didn't exist because if we phoned the police, that would be breaking our non-disclosure agreement. Which means if we walked into a house with a bunch of illegal aliens, we couldn't say shit to ICE or any immigration authorities because we'd be breaking our NDA. Keep that in mind. During a hearing on the case in April, it appeared that a majority of the justices was prepared to allow the administration to include the question, which I think they should have, but, apparently they held it. But the explosive new evidence disclosed by the plaintiffs in the case to give the justices pause about the ruling that they're about to issue. So we're going to skip over here for a minute. And it says over here, deceased GOP strategist hard drive reveals new details on the citizenship question. All right, so we're going to, it's this guy right here, Thomas B. Hofeller, or something like that. Leading Republican strategist died in August. So this is a guy that is, obviously dead. I don't know why they double up the pictures when they did that. All right, achieved near mythic status. We're going to skip that. Party as the Michelangelo of gerrymandering. Can I have a citation, please? I would like a citation, please. The architect of partisan political maps that cemented the party's dominance across the country. I would like a citation, honey, because I think y'all talking out your ass. But after he died last summer, his estranged daughter discovered hard drives in her father's home that revealed, let's bold that, get out of here, something else. Dr. Hoffler had played a crucial role in the Trump administration's decision to add the citizen question to the 2020 census. See, I don't see a problem with this. I really don't see a problem with this, because let me explain to you something. I'm going to switch scenes for a minute and explain to you, explain to you how this works. So let me switch scenes. When you go to somebody's house, you're given an address. You're not given their name. You don't know who lives there. You're given an address. That was picked from a sample when somebody canvassed that area and did a listing. Now, listings are a section of map that you are given, and within a shaded area of that map are the addresses within that shaded area that you have to list for the sample for whatever survey you're doing. Be it a consumer expenditure survey, a consumer expenditure diary survey, which actually leads to the consumer index, employment surveys, national crime and victimization surveys. All of these surveys are surveys that are born from samples that you get by listing areas. So we don't know if anybody lives in the house that we're about to knock on, if the house is finished or not, because if it's still under construction, obviously there's nobody living there, so you can't interview the place. You don't have any names. You don't know how many people are living there, what they look like, or if they're going to shoot you in the face as soon as they open the door. So you're completely at a loss as to what's going to happen when you knock on the door or you ring that doorbell and introduce yourself as an agent of the United States Census Bureau to conduct survey X, Y, or Z. So census workers do put themselves on the line, because there are some people so adamantly against doing surveys, they will bodily harm census takers for just doing their job, for just wanting to ask questions. So let's get back to this. Files on those drives show that he wrote a study in 2015 concluding that adding a citizenship question to the census would allow Republicans to draft even more extreme gerrymandered maps to stymie Democrats. I don't know how that would do that, but whatever. Well, I can kind of see it, but kind of not, because we're trying to prevent any voter fraud. That means eliminating any votes from illegal aliens. So the best way to do that is to take this, to do a census, and to get a good idea, according to the sample size, of how many people in area A, B, or C are actually legal citizens or illegal citizens. I mean, it's not exact. You're still extrapolating data from these sample areas, but that's pretty much how that works. And months after urging President Trump's transition team to tack the question onto the census, he wrote the key portion of a draft Justice Department letter claiming the question was needed to enforce the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Okay, I might have to look that up in a minute, I guess. Those documents, cited in a federal court filing Thursday by opponents seeking to block the citizenship question, have emerged only weeks before the Supreme Court is expected on the to rule on the legality of the citizenship question. Okay, let's go back to over here. When it comes to the every 10-year census or the decennial, they are trying to phase it out by using something called the American Community Survey. So if you get that in your mailbox, that's what that is. Because they're trying to do yearly updates to the census instead of an every 10-year census. Because by the time that 10 years rolls around, all the data you've been using in the previous years is woefully out of date as far as the census is concerned. So the ACS, American Community Survey, has two portions to it. A short form, which is basically how many people are in your house, what your ethnicity is, and so on and so forth. And then the long form that goes into more detail, income, origins, and things of that nature. 1 in every 5 households in the ACS sample actually get that long form. So not everybody gets the extra long form. Most people are getting the short form just for a count, just for a head count, just for an ethnicity and a racial count. Okay? That's pretty much how that works. Critics say adding the question would deter many immigrants from being counted and shift political power to Republican areas. Like I said, NDA covers the fact that we can't rat out to any other department as long as we're an agent of the Census Bureau if we encounter any illegal aliens. We have to remain hush-hush. We can't blow the whistle. Otherwise, we're in trouble. The disclosures represent the most explicit evidence to date that Trump administration added the question in the 2020 census to advance Republican Party interests. This whole thing is making me just, In a statement issued on Thursday evening, the Justice Department said accusations in the filing were baseless and amounted to a last-ditch effort to derail the Supreme Court's consideration of the case. Good. As said, Mr. Hofeller 2015 study played no role in the department's December 2017 request to reinstate a citizenship question to the 2020 decennial census. Notice, I'm going to put this in bold, request to reinstate. I'm going to put that in red so you see it. Request to reinstate. That means the question used to be on the census before they took it off. In Supreme Court arguments in April over the legality of the decision, the Trump administration argued that the benefits of obtaining more accurate citizenship data offset any damage stemming from the likely depressed response to the census by minority groups and non-citizens. Okay, I can see the non-citizens being reticent because a lot of illegal aliens that don't know our rules, don't realize that we can't call immigration on them if we're knocking on the door. I personally never encountered any problems with people wanting to do the census, whether they were legal or illegal, just because they were illegal. They did the census anyway. They answered the questions anyway. I never had a problem with that. Most of the problems I stemmed from the fact that they just didn't like doing surveys, or the surveys were too invasive because they kept asking about income. You know, those kind of reasons. Not, oh my God, you're going to rat me out, blah, blah, blah. Now, there were a couple of situations where they asked me if I could call immigration, and I told them it was against the law for me to do that. So they let me in and they did the questions, which was pretty much a red flag that they were not legal. But, you know, in order to get the data, mum's the word, bit my lip, did the survey, got out of there. And it dismissed charges that the Commerce Department has simply invented a justification for adding the question to the census as unsupported by the evidence. Opponents said that the Justice Department's rationale for seeking to add a citizenship question to the census was baldly contrived, a conclusion shared by federal judges in all three lawsuits opposing the administration's action. I wonder which federal judges. I'm going to guess here and bet that they're probably those left-wing judges that are out west, wester. I know it's not a word, but I'm making up a word, dang it. Are wester than me, further west than me. I made up a word, dang it. I can do that. All right, so let's go back to the original one here and let's scroll down to where we were at now that we've got a little more information from the other one. But the explosive new evidence disclosed by the plaintiffs in the case give the justices pause about ruling on the issue. And so we already read what the new evidence, the explosive new evidence, dead guys, hard drives. This is one of the most consequential cases before the court this term. The decision on it will have far-reaching effects on the distribution of political power and federal funding across the country for the next decade and beyond. Yes, because illegal aliens aren't supposed to be in the United States. Census Bureau determines where funding gets allotted to what states and how much for what programs. Without an accurate count, we don't know exactly how much funding needs to go where. According to the plaintiffs who brought the New York challenge to the citizenship question, Mark Newman, a key advisor to Mr. Ross on census issues, and John Gore, a Justice Department official who oversees voting rights enforcement, gave false or misleading testimony, really, during the course of the litigation about why the Trump administration was so intent on including a citizenship query on the decennial count. I need a citation. Hello, citation, please. As detailed in the Times and in court filings on Thursday, Thomas Hofeller, a longtime Republican expert on redistricting, who died last year. Notice how they say redistricting in this one and gerrymandering in the other one. Was a major force behind adding the citizenship question to the census. Plaintiffs say the court's filings that Trump administration officials concealed his role in the matter through affirmative misrepresentations. Affirmative misrepresentations. Love the word spinning. That may inherit sanctions against government officials. Judge Jesse Furman of Federal District Court of the first of the three judges to strike down the, there we go, citizenship question. He asked the Justice Department to respond to the charges and has scheduled a hearing for next week. So there's a hearing coming next week on this. So they're still trying to figure out, because the 2020 census is right around the corner, y'all. This mail out's got to happen in December. The latest is the last 2 weeks of December. Lawyers challenging the citizenship question told Judge Furman on Thursday that according to a 2015 study written by Mr. Hofeller, adding a citizenship question would create a structural electoral advantage. You gotta love these phrases that they always put in quotes. Okay, that would benefit Republicans and non-Hispanic whites. I love how they do this. Okay, so let me put it to you. I'm going to ask a question. We're going to go back. Non-Hispanic whites. Now, if they don't claim being Hispanic on the form, then you will never know they're Hispanic. I haven't checked to see if there's a sample of the 2020 census form floating around to see if they still have 2 pages worth of, oh, where are you from if you're Hispanic? Because they did that when I was working for the Census Bureau 20 years ago. I don't know if it's still on the form. Where if you were to check that you were Hispanic in origin, there were 2 pages of Latin American and Hispanic countries, and they asked you to point out where you or your ancestors came from. And then they were wondering why the Hispanic communities felt left, singled out. It was painfully obvious to me. Let's see here. Okay, this alludes back to the 1965 Voting Rights Act that we had discussed in the other article. Mr. Newman admitted that in a deposition last year that Mr. Hofeller was the first person to suggest the addition of the citizenship question. Let's see. The plaintiffs accused Mr. Newman and Mr. Gore of providing false testimony in their explanations for this whole charade. I'm still waiting for that citation. I need a citation. Citation, please. The new evidence demonstrates a direct through line from Mr. Hofeller's conclusion that adding a citizenship question would advantage Republican and non-Hispanic whites to the rationale advanced by the Justice Department, the lawyers wrote. I love it. Okay, I'm going to repeat this. The new evidence demonstrates a direct through line from Mr. Hofeller's conclusion that adding a citizenship question would advantage Republican and non-Hispanic whites. How? And I still need that citation. In a civil rights case, this would be powerful evidence that the Trump administration took action for the express purpose of disadvantaging minorities. I don't think so. But that's my opinion, and you're giving me yours. This, however, is a case dealing with administrative rules which require officials to act in good faith and offer legitimate reasons for advancing a particular policy goal. Really. An accurate and fair count of everyone in America isn't just any policy goal. There's much at stake with the 2020 census, from the future of the next redistricting cycle, to how billions of dollars in federal funding will be allocated. The Supreme Court should see this new evidence for what it seems to reveal: a blatant attempt to rig a constitutional mandate. Okay. The census that we take, that is a whole country census, that is mandatory to take, even though, and this is an insider tip, the government has no way of forcing you to take it. The United States Census Bureau does not have its own enforcement department, to report people that don't take the census and turn it in. I'm just going to let you know that. It's mandatory, but we've got no way of penalizing you if you don't do it. That's pretty much what the Census Bureau is. So if you find it in your mailbox, please fill it out, because the more people that fill it out, the more accurate the count can be. Now, as somebody who used to work in the Census Bureau, I will tell you, you don't have to put your name on that form. Your name is not mandatory. You can use a pseudonym. You can use a nickname. You can use a false name. They're not going to come after you for putting a false name on the Census Bureau, because they're just looking for demographics, age, race, income, and things of that nature. They don't care what your name is. They don't run a census on how many Johns are in the United States. They're looking for ethnicity, race, income brackets, employment, how many people average in a house in area X, Y, or Z, where these people come from, so on and so forth. They're not interested in your name, so you don't have to put your name down. So you can do it anonymously, okay? Here's a couple of other things that you don't know that you can that you may or may not know. Let me correct myself. That you may or may not know about the Census Bureau, okay? If you don't want to answer a question on the census form, put an R for refuse. They can't call back and follow up because you just flat out refuse to answer the questions. R for refuse. If you don't know the answer because you don't have any papers in front of you to give an accurate answer for the Census Bureau, DK. D as in dog, K as in Kyle, DK. Don't know. These are acceptable responses to these questions in case you don't know or you don't want to answer the questions. This is what leads to a margin of error in the census count. Just giving you some inside tips. So, if you like this video, don't forget to like it. If you disliked it, you can hit that thumbs down button. If you want to continue the conversation, well, that's what the comment section is for. And the description gives you where I pulled these articles from, as well as ways to support all the content that I make across my social media, on my blog, and on my many channels. Until next time, guys, take care of yourselves. The decision on it will have a far-reaching. I can't type. I can't read all of a sudden. I've become illiterate. Oh, I've become illiterate. Oh.